Welcome to OverBoost 57. OverBoost is a podcast interview series featuring discussions with speedrunners about their history in speedrunning and gaming and the runs they're passionate about. I am your host, PMC Trilogy, and with me today is Galasrinie. Gala, thank you so much for joining me.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Now, a major reason that I think I discovered your name was because I noticed that you were going to be running Bayonetta at SGDQ 2021. And so to lead things off, I want to, just talk about that a little bit. And first off, I wanted you to give your sales pitch about why people should check out that run at GDQ. Like what is there a particular moment? Is there anything else that, like, if you had a elevator pitch to give to someone about why they should watch that run live, what would it be?
It's really flashy and over the top. Like, that game is so over the top. And then the run is like a step above that. Like, you're going so fast and everything happens so fast. There's a lot going on in that run, and it's really fun to get to show off. Especially for people who've never seen the game before. Like, seeing Bayonetta for the first time, she's so over the top and flies around, and there's all these, like, demonic creatures everywhere. She's got a lot of attitude, and it's really fun to get to show off. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's an added trait. I wasn't even thinking about that. As I mentioned before we started that I had played the game, and so like I knew the game before watching the run, and I was very impressed with the run because the run is optimized combat, but there's also a lot of really cool, like, tricks and skips. I think, like, the one that really stuck out to me was skipping the one motorcycle section by going backwards across the finish line. Do you have a favorite skip or trick from the Bayonetta run?
Probably, like, it's funny you mentioned that one, because the one that usually, like, that catches people's eyes is the one that when we go across the lava, like, we skip having to go across the bridge and we just fly over the lava to get to a platform in the distance to, like, skip this whole segment.
That's the time warp section, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. In chapter 3, we skip over this segment and we just, like, Bayonetta's going, over, like, the through the air to the other side of the area. That's usually the one that people pick up.
I love it when character action games, and I say that to refer to games like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry or things like that, have some kind of canceling thing that allows you to repeat to do that kind of stuff. I feel like I've talked to several Devil May Cry runners in the pod, and, like, I always laugh when there ends up being something where they can just repeat, like a jump to get above things, and it's always very, very funny. With Bayonetta, I noticed that, and I don't know if this is something that you looked up or you thought about when you submitted the game, but do you know the last time Bayonetta was in one of the mainline events? I'm curious if
it was like 10 years ago or something like that.
It's wild.
Like a long time ago.
And I have to imagine, did you check out any of those runs? Because I have to imagine, like, I think the time for those runs is, like, well over, like, 2 hours, 45 minutes or something. And
yeah. The run has progressed a lot since
just
then.
A bit.
It's been a long time.
Cool. Yeah. And I wanted to check in and share that because I was really, really interested. Was there, with submitting this run, because I know you looking at your profile, you've done a number of runs. Was Bayonetta the only one that you submitted? Because I know you've done Bayonetta at other events. Was Bayonetta the only one that you submitted to GDQ?
It was the only one I submitted. Okay. Yeah, because at the time when submissions were open, I wasn't feeling too great, and I wasn't thinking of submitting anything. And then someone was like, "Oh, maybe just submit one thing, see how it goes. Just submit something, because otherwise you might regret it later." So I was like, "Okay, I submit Bayonetta 1." It was my only submission, and it got in.
I mean, hey, it's a good run, and I certainly enjoyed. You had given me. I always watch a few VODs of the runners before the pod, and you'd given me a few different Bayonetta runs. Which was one of them actually was really neat, was because Valuethon 8, which apparently was your first marathon run.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So I was in that marathon on, like, Sunday with, like, Armored Core or something, and it was just really fun to see, like, obviously you can't catch everything in a marathon. It never really works out that way. So it was fun to go back and see. I wanted to, on that note, I had a specific question because it's common advice, like, GDQ happens and people are like, I'd love to get into running and do runs and be on that kind of stage, but it can be very intimidating. And advice that I usually give, or I hear other people give, is there are lots of online marathons. Just, go submit to those. Do you feel like, I guess, was Valuethon that kind of experience for you? Or, because I guess I don't know how you found Valuethon, or like, that seems like since then, you've done Fleet Fatales, you're going to SGDQ. So it seems like you're getting into the marathon thing. And I'm just kind of curious if you have any perspective or narrative on your career of submitting to speedrun marathons.
Yeah, it was something I built up to, because I remember I submitted to ESA as like the first marathon I submitted to, but I didn't get in. And I thought, oh, that's okay. Then I submitted to Valuethon, and I submitted to quite a few different like smaller marathons after that. And I think that really builds up your confidence, because you look like you'll get nervous, but there's not as many people watching sometimes, and it can make you feel a little bit more comfortable. Like the marathons are more cozy; they feel more cozy to be at. So, yeah, Valuethon is really nice. That's a really good, good marathon to submit to. They're really lovely.
Yeah, I had before Valuethon 9, I had Boix on the pod, and I got to poke and prod him about Valuethon history. So that was a lot of. If people are curious about Valuethon history, that is the Boix episode is a good one to go back and listen to. Well, all right. Well, in that case, I'm glad I wanted to get that one out of the way, because I find it. I love encouraging people to submit to marathons and to more marathons, and it sounds like you are well on that path. But speaking of paths, after covering the current events, the next place I like to go to is just getting a sense of your gaming history. So, do you have an origin story for how you got into gaming? Does that come from family, friends?
Yeah, probably the earliest memories that I have of gaming is like me being like 4 years old or very little, and my uncle and my sister playing on the PlayStation 1 together, and I'll just be sitting there watching. Like they wouldn't let me play, but yeah, sitting there watching them play, I remember that a lot. And
do you remember what they would be playing?
I think they were playing like Tomb Raider, Spyro, Abe's Odyssey, Oddworld, that one as well. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But at some point you started playing too.
Yeah, that was pretty much not until a lot later. I always had liked games, but I was always like on the sideline watching. I never really played it myself until quite a bit later. Yeah, so...
Is there a particular thing that prompted that? I mean, because it sounds like you said sibling and everything, and so I hear that sometimes too, right? Where you have I had that experience when I was very young, where I had a sibling who's 9 years older than me, who had like a Super Nintendo, Genesis, but then sold the Super Nintendo before I was old enough to really play with it. So I just totally missed out on that until I was old enough to have a PS1 myself. What would have been some of the first games that you played then?
This is hard to think of, but because I come from a pretty strict, heavily religious household, my parents didn't really like me playing games like that much. So I remember the first console that I bought was a Nintendo DS that I saved up with like pocket change. I had to save it up for myself, and I eventually bought it for myself. I had a friend in school named Anastasia. She was a really good friend of mine, and she got me into gaming as well, like with the Nintendo DS, yeah. So we would play together.
What was hot on the DS? Well, you like? I mean, I feel like the default answer of Nintendo handhelds is often Pokemon, but
Pokemon was good. I remember we played some like RPGs and like Animal Crossing and some other things like that. I can't remember specifics, but yeah, like Mario Kart, like just...
No, that's right. DS was a great system for... I feel like the DS was like an all-time great like con system just because of the... What was the thing? Was it Picto Chat? Did you guys ever do Picto Chat or...
Yeah, I remember that too, yeah.
No, that was definitely very, very powerful. Well, you already actually... one of the questions I usually ask is, was there a milestone where you bought... you took ownership of gaming and bought something, with your own money, and you already answered that one for me. You talked about the Nintendo DS and picking that up for yourself. Another question that I ask, because we're gonna be talking mostly about speedruns, but I like to check in on what sort of multiplayer games you've been into. Have you done much in that way? Because it sounds like, from the upbringing, you probably didn't have maybe easy access to online gaming. But is that something that you've gone into later, where you've played MOBAs, MMOs, anything like that?
Honestly, no. Well, in high school, I tried League of Legends with a friend of mine, but that didn't end up well. I don't really play. Like, I've always been very reclusive. Like, I don't really do that many multiplayer games that much. Like, now that I'm a bit older, I like to do some multiplayer with others, like, in my, like, Twitch community and stuff like that. But, yeah, growing up, I didn't really do that much like that. I was very much alone, I guess.
Was it just the infamous toxicity of League that drove you away, or was there some particular story?
Not really. Like, I wasn't really close friends with this person, so I didn't really have anyone to play with. That's the main reason why I didn't really get to play. Yeah. No,
that's definitely. I feel like one sort of constant through multiplayer gaming is that even when regardless of whether it was dedicated servers or matchmaking, like matchmaking, you still queue up with friends, right? Like, and if you're not having that experience, then that is probably not what you want, really. So that's quite understandable. Now, some of the games that I think we're going to be talking about are games that have been around for a hot minute, and so was Bayonetta. Now, Bayonetta, I think I mentioned before we started the pod formal, is a game that's from the 7th generation of consoles. It was originally on consoles like 360. And so was Bayonetta a game that you would have played, around the time it came out in 2009, or is that something that you discovered later?
I discovered it a lot later. It was actually one of the first games I streamed on Twitch. Yeah. So, yeah, that was one of the first games that I streamed, even though my internet was very bad. I tried it out. And I remember, because, I was still, when I first started streaming, I was still pretty, like, shy and... Like, I had a lot of character development to do. Like, I was very, very within myself. Like, I didn't know how to express myself in a lot of ways because I didn't really have a lot of social upbringing. I was pretty alone in a lot of ways. And I remember how much Bayonetta impressed me because she was so confident. And, like, that was a complete contrast to who I was. Like, I was so shy and... I remember seeing her, I was like, wow. So, yeah, she really impressed me. Yeah.
So, one of the things that I have to do when I'm figuring out the order to ask questions is I'm always curious to see in which order, because I like to go roughly chronologically, but one of the things that I can be uncertain about is whether people discover streaming or speedrunning or whatever the case might be first. So, it certainly sounds like, you just mentioned... Bayonetta was a part of your first experiences streaming on Twitch, but I'm going to ask, which did you discover first, Twitch or speedrunning?
I discovered Twitch first.
Okay, what's the story? What brought you to Twitch?
It's kind of funny. I actually started, like, I was on, do you know Crunchyroll? I was on Crunchyroll forums doing, like, action role play. And then from there... I went to Discord because I had Discords. And then from Discord, I met people who were on Twitch. So that's kind of like the journey that I went on, forums, Discord, and then Discord to Twitch. And then I made a Twitch account. And there was like some people I knew who were like, oh yeah, I want to be a streamer. I want to make money. All that kind of idea that they had. I just was like, oh yeah, it might be nice because like I struggle with talking. Like forming my words together and stuff like that. So I thought being on Twitch and like streaming could help me socialize with other people because it's like very community kind of based. So I started streaming and it went off from there. Even though my internet was really bad, it was something I wanted to do. So I stuck at it. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to mention last week I had, do you know Stylenide?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do, yeah.
So, Stylenide, of course, was last week's guest, who also had a very similar story about Australian internet complicating the beginning of the streaming journey. Sounds like things have gotten better for some folks. I don't know if is that you have a better connection now, or?
Oh yeah, I have a better connection now. Yeah, I got NBN last year sometime, so it's a lot better now. But before, my internet download and upload was one. So what I would do is I would have my stream in 480p with a 1000 bitrate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I streamed at. And like with that, I could like, I had like a viewership of like 30. So like, it was still like, because I wanted to do it, even if I didn't have that much, I could still do what I wanted. Like just working with what I had. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna confess. I watched your Dark Souls 2 PB, and as I was watching it, I was like, something seems wrong here. Am I at the right, like, is there something wrong with my internet? Am I at the right bit rate? And I was like, 480p.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had a hunch that we might have something like this discussion.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to hear it's gotten better. Certainly, I feel like America is very hot and cold on internet connections, and certainly I'm sure you see plenty of people cursing things like Comcast all day. I'm pretty fortunate to have a fiber optic, but you got to do what you got to do. I certainly don't fault working with what you have. I can remember working with 56K modems way longer than anyone should have back in the day. But so, you mentioned the pipeline of things that brought you to streaming through Crunchyroll forums, which is a unique one. I really like that one. I didn't know Crunchyroll had forums. Of course, I know who Crunchyroll is, but did not realize they had forums. But I definitely respect that. That is honestly very analogous to, I feel, a lot of because I'm familiar with, I guess, people who are closer to my age who have forums experiences from like the early 2000s, and how that segued into things that they were involved in. But to take that from Discord to Twitch is very good. But now I gotta ask the other question, which is you made it all the way to Twitch because you wanted to do it. You wanted to have the social element to it, which is a big part of Twitch. That's a pretty solid answer on why to stream on Twitch. What brought you to speedrunning? How did you discover speedrunning?
So like on Twitch, when I was streaming, I did first playthroughs of Dark Souls on my channel. And because I was doing first playthroughs of Dark Souls, I would check the directory of like who else was streaming. And somehow through all of that, I came across no hit runners, which is like a type of challenge run. And then through no hit runners, I came across speed runners. And particularly I came across like the Speed Souls community, which is the Dark Souls speedrunning community. And I came across a few runners such as Mama Souls and DJ Natty. They were two of the particular ones that I started watching a lot. Yeah, they did Bloodborne speedruns, which wasn't what I was doing at the time. At the time, I was doing like Dark Souls 2 challenge runs, like no death and stuff like that. But I used to watch them a lot, and I thought, oh, this is really cool. And I remember, because particularly with Mama Souls, she's kind of like the mother of the Soulsborne kind of speedrunning community. That's kind of like her name suits her a lot.
Right, yeah.
She's really nice. And I remember watching her play Bloodborne, and I remember seeing her get so frustrated and like so passionate and so angry about the game, like over and over, and like resetting and doing runs. And then I remember this one day she was on like a bright green run, and she was nervous, and she was, doing her run. And at the end of her run, she was like so happy. She started crying, right? And I started crying too, because like I saw her build up to that moment, like all the frustration, all the emotions to actually get to this point, and like I saw her practicing, and then to see her get there, that meant a lot to me too. So I was like, you know what, I want to do this too. This is really good. Like seeing someone like hard work and like get to that point, and like seeing all the passion and emotions for it, it appealed to me a lot. So I was like, you know what, yeah, I want to do this too. This looks like fun.
Yeah, every encounter I've had with the Speed Souls community in the context of doing this has been really positive. A few weeks back, or like a month or two ago, I had Matt Apocalypse on, and he was a great guest. Really, shout outs to Matt, who will also be in SGDQ doing Dark Souls 3. So keep an eye out for him.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask. So I am not myself, a runner of Souls, or I haven't even played any of them, and so I was unfamiliar with some of the community differentiation that you talked about, the speedrunners and the I guess challenge runners, no hit runners, as you described it. When you were getting into things, I have to ask this because Matt talked a lot about this.
Yeah.
Were you immediately into glitches being a part of the runs, or is that something that you were initially reticent to engage with?
I didn't mind them at all. I didn't really have an opinion. It just was like, oh, it's normal for them. Okay. It's normal for speedrunning. It's okay.
No, that's
I didn't have any issues with it.
Okay. No, I'm just curious. I didn't realize it was such a thing. I mean, the other thing too, and this is a kind of a general question about your game choice, is that I noticed that a lot of the games that you're playing, well, some of them, I don't know if Bayonetta has the reputation of being difficult, but like, there's this aura of difficulty around Souls. I would say, I think a few times I had lurked your stream recently and you were playing the Ninja Gaiden games, the like, I always think of them as the Xbox Ninja Gaiden games, which I guess they sort of are, but do you have any particular, like, do you feel like you're doing a difficult thing in terms of playing these games, or do you have any sort of relationship with difficulty in terms of this game choice?
Well, I guess I like a challenge, but that's usually not my reason for picking a game. It's just kind of what happens with the games that I like.
Mm-hmm.
They always have some form of difficulty because I like to work hard. I like to I like something that I can sink my teeth into and like put a lot of energy into. So like for the games that I've learned, I can do that for. I can put a lot of mental energy into them, and I like to do that. But yeah, I seem to always seem to pick games that end up being hard. It's just what happens with me.
Now, in terms of when you're playing this kind of game, in terms of Dark Souls 2 or Ninja Gaiden, do you ever have any sort of interactions with people who are, I don't know, difficult about this kind of thing? And certainly when I was talking to Matt, he gave me the impression that he was very, very fatigued with, get good, things like that. Is that something that you've encountered at all, or?
When I did Souls, yeah, that was fatiguing. But like for other games that I've run, it hasn't been like that.
Oh, it's specific to Souls.
It's
interesting.
Specific to Souls. Yeah, there's a big, kind of culture with that in specific. Yeah,
that's interesting because I guess like just watching them and having played like a few bits and pieces of things, like if you asked me to rate which one was more difficult, I would say Ninja Gaiden is more difficult. I played Ninja Gaiden a few times and I thought it was impossibly difficult, but it is what it is. Well, on that note, let's start doing some kind of game takes. I'm going to ask for just sort of mentions of specific games. Now, we got into talking about, let's confirm, Bayonetta. Was Bayonetta the first game that you did runs of, that you like were streamed and recorded runs of?
No, that was Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 2 was my first. Yeah, Bayonetta came a lot later.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I had, because when you said when you got into streaming, you started with Bayonetta, but you didn't start speedrunning.
No, that was my first playthrough. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so first Dark Souls 2. Of all of the speedruns that you have done, and maybe we might know the answer to this already. What is your favorite? Do you have a favorite run out of all the different runs you've done?
Yeah, it would be Bayonetta.
It would be Bayonetta.
Bayonetta 1. I have such a great attachment to her, like as a character and like the game in general, because I started running Bayonetta at a part of my life where I was in a really like big dip, like I was really low, and like running that game made me happy, so it brought me all the way back up again. Yeah, so that means a lot to me, that game.
Now, I do have to ask the flip side question, which is, of all of the runs that you've done, is there a least favorite? A one that you are probably not going to come back to because it wasn't for you?
Yeah, Dark Souls 2. Either that, or I did run Halo ODST once. I did one run of that, and I thought that run was very dry, and I didn't return to it ever again. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's really, like, because if looking at your SRC profile, like, a theme emerges, it seems like,
Yeah.
but a first-person shooter is pretty far outside that. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried that because at the time, like, I had a boyfriend. He was like, "Oh, maybe we can try like mix our hobbies together," because he really liked Halo and I really like speedrunning. So I did a 12-hour stream with him. It didn't go very well because I did end up liking the run. Like, I'm all like action games, fast-paced, heavy, like all that kind of stuff. And then ODST was like very slow, and I was like, "Oh, this is not my thing."
Yeah, the Halo games are very paced, which can be fine. I've enjoyed them, but like that's also definitely a way different flavor than even I would say. That's a way different flavor than playing something like
I prefer
like
them a
Bayonetta.
lot more like casually than speedrunning. Yeah.
How about a game that you would like to speedrun, but you haven't gotten around to it yet, whether for time or it doesn't fit with what you're doing?
Oh, I have a few games that I want to learn. One of them that I'm in the process of learning is Devil May Cry 3. I also want to learn God Hand, and I also want to learn Doom Eternal, which is kind of a little bit, because it's a shooter, and I haven't done a shooter before, but it's really fast-paced, so I know I would like that because I really like fast-paced combat. That's like my favorite.
No, go ahead.
I think one more would be Mad World, because a lot of my games that I like are like platinum games, like Bayonetta. They make pretty good action games. So, and I recently played Mad World. It's very
That's a very stylistic game.
Yeah, stylistic. Yeah. So I would want to try that out too, see what it's like.
Platinum is pretty solid. I recently played Vanquish for the first time and had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, Vanquish. Yeah. That's a good one.
I almost had a question when you mentioned. Oh, I was gonna just comment that I feel like the number one answer for this question is God Hand. Like I know Style and I last week 100% said he wants to learn God Hand.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure, like, if you went back, at least like 5 other people have said I want to learn God Hand.
Really?
Which is really funny to me. Like, everyone talks about God Hand, but I don't see that much God Hand.
See, God Hand, I think, is intimidating because it's hard. And that's probably a reason why, like, people don't always jump on it and get into it, because it takes time. At least that's what I get the impression of. But I will do it. It's just a matter of getting around to it, because, I want to do all these other things too. It's just a matter of putting them in place. Yeah.
Yeah, I see people in the chat are trying to invoke the ghost of Zana G on me, which I don't know how much I appreciate that. I hang out sometimes in Yakuza speedrun streamers chats where Zana will sometimes show up, and he's very good at what he does. So I'm going to say that. I'm going to change the subject. How about a favorite speedrun to watch that you have no plans to run yourself?
Oh, that's a good one, because I often like watching runs that I wouldn't run, like Crash Bandicoot, or like platformers, or like things that I wouldn't run are often ones that I like to watch. Although I do love watching Dark Souls 3 All Bosses when Matt runs that, because I watched Matt. Yeah, that's a really nice run to watch. I like to watch that.
No, those are good runs. I enjoyed watching all of Matt's stuff. It was very, very good. All right, so one more. This is going to bring things back around to GDQ stuff, which is, you've gotten, you obviously did Fleet Fatales before. Now going to be doing SGDQ 2021 online. I realize in the future, the mainline events may be going back to being in person. Crossing fingers, knocking on wood. I don't know what your travel capability is, but let's just say any sort of big marathon event. If you could get any speed run, just automatic in, you've done Bayonetta, what's the next thing? Like, what's the next run that you would want to be able to showcase at a big speedrun marathon?
Probably Ninja Gaiden Black, because that's what I've been running lately. I'd like to show that. Yeah.
That's a solid run. For sure. Yeah. No, Ninja Gaiden Black is a pretty good time. All right. Well, let's segue to a different sort of topic. We already talked a little bit about how you got into streaming. You know, one thing I wanted to check in, we mentioned already a little bit about some of the obstacles to streaming, good internet, some of the equipment. Now, at the time that you would have been getting into streaming, I think the software is, more mature than it might have been at the beginning of the decade. OBS Studio and things like that are pretty usable. What kind of, but you're playing some of these games that you're playing are, oh, no, wait. Well, okay. For some reason, I thought you had more old runs that were console runs. But you've done some console runs. You've done some runs on Switch and Xbox One. What is your capture situation for doing console runs? Oh,
I use an Elgato capture.
Just like
HD 20, yeah.
Is that the external one or?
Yeah, external. Like a little shape one.
All right. Has that been pretty good for you? I always like to check in on this equipment stuff just to see what works for people.
Yeah, it's been pretty alright. I haven't had any issues yet, so it works for me. But yeah, I don't run anything on like too older hardware, so.
Yeah, no, I noticed the games you were running were all HDMI consoles, so I don't have to bother you with the awful OSSC questions or anything like that. We can avoid that extremely cursed discussion. Well, hopefully this is not a cursed discussion. One thing I do ask about is health stuff, because we're speedrunning, so we're doing lots of repetitive motions for hours on end. Do you do anything when it comes to maintaining good wrist-hand health? Like, do you do stretches, or also in regards to being sedentary, to doing long streams or anything? Do you have any preventative measures that you take?
Well, I make sure at least every 3 hours or every 2.5 hours I take a break for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. I always make sure that I do that because it's very easy, like with the runs that I do, because most of them are over an hour. It's very easy to like do runs back to back and then forget, oh, it's like 5 hours into stream and I haven't taken a break. That's really bad. So yeah, I always make sure I try and take a break, and yeah, I do my hands, have a snack, stretch, have a drink, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I used to be really bad with that when I ran Dark Souls 2, which is probably one of the reasons why I have such bad memories of that game, because I used to work myself so hard. Like, my hands would be aching and it'll be like 2 a.m. and I would still want to be going because, this isn't enough. I have to keep going. I'm playing like shit, but I want to play well. Yeah.
No,
I was really hard on myself.
Yeah, that's important to do, though. You gotta, because it'll catch up with you. Even though if you feel like you really want to, go in hard, it will catch up with you if you don't, take that break time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important.
On that note, while we're talking about the, the repetitive motions and things like that, do you have controller hot take? I'm actually curious because a lot of the games, you're playing these character action games, and a lot of them, of course, thankfully, thank goodness, do have PC versions now. Are you typically playing them on a controller, or do you play any of them on keyboard mouse?
I play most of them on controller. Yeah, I just use an Xbox One controller. That's what I've pretty much always used. Yeah. Do
you have controller hot takes? Do you feel like there's best in?
Not really. I know some people don't like the Xbox One controller because the Joy-Cons are like not next to each other, like on a PlayStation controller, but that doesn't bother me at all. Yeah, it doesn't feel odd to me. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say because we talked about during your how you got into gaming, and even though you witnessed PS1 gaming, it wasn't something you did that much of yourself. You weren't. It sounds like you weren't really doing much of it yourself on the DS. So I'm not too surprised. A lot of times, I ask this question, I get very hot takes about the N64 controller or the GameCube controller, something like that. But no, Xbox is obviously. I think the Xbox One controller is like the most. That's my preferred pad for if I need a pad for PC games.
Yeah.
What do you do for like Bayonetta 2 for Switch stuff? Do you have like a Pro?
I use a Switch controller. Yeah, I tried when I did my first playthrough. I did Joy-Cons, but then I realized, if I'm gonna speed run like the button mashing and all that kind of stuff, because there's jump canceling where you need to press 2 buttons at once. I'm gonna need a controller, so I got a Switch controller. Yeah.
Wait, okay. I have to invoke someone from chat here. Is it true that you broke a controller?
Yeah, I've broken many controllers, specifically when I ran Dark Souls 2. Not because I like threw them on the wall or something, but because just overuse and like my hands would grab the controller so hard. I would just overuse. Yeah.
So would it be so just I understand you're saying it's wear and tear. It's not that you're raging or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's specifically that like the grip would just like. Would it break? Like, are you saying like the buttons would break, or something like with a stick would break? Or I'm not sure if I understood you.
I'm more just like you press the button in like so hard, like eventually the button just kind of stays in. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So the button wears
or like,
out.
Yeah, button wears out. Because like with running Dark Souls in particular, like claw gripping and stuff like that, I'd always put a lot of pressure on my controller doing all those kind of things. Yeah, working too hard. Yeah.
Speaking of working hard, I wanted to ask because I noticed that you did make it to Twitch partner status. Was there a particular game that kind of put you on that road? Because I mean, certainly you mentioned that in the old bad old 480p days, you had a viewership of like 30 or something. Was there a particular thing that you did or like a particular run that you were working on that really kind of put you over the edge in terms of having an audience?
Yeah, this still surprised me too, but it was Bayonetta that got me partnered. It was Bayonetta, which is you usually don't think because like the directory for Bayonetta usually doesn't have that many people in it, so it's like, oh, it's kind of like a dead game, you know? Like I remember when I transitioned from like Dark Souls 2 to Bayonetta, I lost a lot of viewership. Because, it's something like different. It's not like even in the Souls realm or Souls-like, it's like an action game and it's like completely different. So I lost a lot of my viewership. But because I showed Bayonetta at a lot of speedrun marathons, that's how like a lot of people of similar interest to me like came to my stream. And yeah, when I did Frame Fatale specifically as well, I met a lot more people. Yeah. I've made a lot more like Bayonetta friends and like action, action game friends. A lot of people as well from the Devil May Cry speedrunning community came to say hi to me, so that was nice. Yeah,
those folks are also.
So it was Bayonetta that got me partner. Yeah.
Yeah, shout outs to the DMC runners. I say this about lots of communities, but like every DMC runner I've talked to has been excellent as well. So always happy to talk to those folks. Where was I going next? I keep forgetting my segues, which is very, very powerful. How about a general question here, which is, do you feel like there's a particular point or appeal of speedrunning for you? I think you mentioned earlier when you were talking about discovering speedrunning that you found a lot of appeal in the narrative. You talked about watching Mama Souls and seeing that narrative for you. But now that you've spent time doing it, doing runs, streaming, doing marathons, is there a particular part of it that keeps you going, a particular appeal?
I guess it is, the emotions that you feel. Like, even if it's frustration and anger, like, because for me, like, where I started with, like, not knowing how to express myself well, not knowing how to express anger, sadness, all that kind of stuff. And then speedrunning kind of taught me how to do that because I would get angry and get sad and I'd have to learn how to express it. And also just the appeal of just learning things, learning runs, like spending more time in the games that I like, and also the communities around speedrunning too, like making more friends, and the communities are really lovely too.
Communities are definitely very, very good. I have to agree there. Now, here's one on the heels of that question. If you could go back in time to when you were just getting into speedrunning yourself and give yourself a piece of advice, what advice might you give?
Don't be too hard on yourself. Yeah, I would tell, yeah, I was way too hard on myself in a lot of ways. Yeah. Because one thing I didn't do was whenever I did something good, I wouldn't pat myself on the back. I would be like, you know what? That could have been better. That could have been better. And I never accommodated like myself or said, you know, that's good, you know, that's okay. I can take a break, you know. I never said that to myself with Dark Souls 2. Like, I feel like it's a lot with people's first speed game. They go in with the like expectation that it's going to be easy, or that like they like a different expectation than what it's going to be like. Because since I was doing like challenge runs in Dark Souls 2, I thought, oh yeah, I'll be able to speedrun. It'll be all right, you know. I have a bit of experience. This will be okay. And then I got my heart shattered because it was a different way of playing. And I was like, why am I so bad at this game? I've spent so much time, but now I'm bad. What's going on? But it's just a different way of playing. Yeah, so I would have just told myself, don't be too hard on yourself, you know. It takes time, and don't try and rush yourself, because that's what I would do. I spent so much time just trying to rush myself to get better. Yeah, and it was like always on my head how to get better and trying to get better, and it was all like, yeah, very obsessive, I guess.
Yeah,
taking breaks is important.
That is maybe the best advice, which is to be measured and paced in getting better. You know, because it can feel like you just, oh, I just got to do it. I just gotta put out a run or get that time or whatever. And you know, to treat it just sort of a finish line to sneak over rather than something to approach in a more reasonable manner. Yeah, I think process oriented is definitely a good way to put it in terms of what you want to do, especially when you want to achieve big things. Certainly, you can just learn for fun. You know, speedrunning does not mean only trying to get the best time in a game as well. You know, it certainly is totally okay. Actually, no way. That reminded me of something that when you were talking about Halo ODST, you mentioned a 12-hour stream. Was that a 12-hour challenge? Are you familiar with that? It was. Okay. That comes up on this podcast so often. I've been yeah. No, I think the best person I had for that was a runner named Jaxler, who like half of his games I would be like, how did you what made you start speedrunning this? And he would say, I did a 12-hour challenge. Every time. So that's fun. Shout outs to, I think it's Golden who runs that institution. I've never done one myself, but maybe I should now, you know. Have you actually? I'm curious. Have you done any 12-hour challenges since then? Has that been a thing, or was it just that one time and it was like, I don't really like this?
Well, usually when I do like a 12-hour challenge, I don't do it at the same time that like the 12-hour challenge actually happens, because usually like doesn't always add up to the same time. So my goal for this year was at the end of each month to do a 12-hour stream learning a new speed game. That's a goal that I set for this year. Mainly because like it's really easy to get stuck on one game for a long time, and that's what happened. Like I used to just play Bayonetta the whole year, like last year, and I was like, I set all these goals to like want to learn other runs, but I never got around to doing it because I was just absorbed in one game. So to try and like mix it up a little bit, I set that goal for myself. Yeah, so yeah, that's what I do now. Try and, even if I don't like learn the whole game, it just sets a period of time to just see if I want to run that or not. So yeah, just kind of have a bit of a taste of different speed games each month. It's good. I
find often when people pick up their first game, when they're first getting into speedrunning, it can sort of take a while to get to that second game. But like once you rip that Band-Aid off, things kind of accelerate from there.
Yeah.
Was that the case for you? Like, so I know Dark Souls 2 you said was the first one that you did yourself. Was there a certain thing that made you move on from Dark Souls 2 and start trying other games?
Yeah, I got world record in Dark Souls 2, and Like, I got a time that was perceived as good, but my mentality was still bad. And I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't be like this anymore. I can't just keep, like, trying to just, yeah, I was just in a really bad mindset and I needed to get out. So I just stopped. Yeah. I had to move on to something else.
Well, while we're on the subject of Dark Souls 2, I was kind of curious what prompted you to pick that game up as your first one, and also just generally because as someone outside of Souls, my perception of Dark Souls 2 as it is the unpopular one. So yeah, I'm curious what led you. I mean, first off, had you played the game casually beforehand?
Yeah, I played it casually quite a bit. I did like little challenge runs and things like that, like Deathless and yeah, stuff like that. And at the time when I was watching like Soul speedrunners, I wasn't watching Dark Souls 2 runners because I didn't really know that many of them that streamed like consistently. There wasn't that many of them that streamed consistently, at least from what I remember. But there was the two, yeah, Bloodborne runners that I watched. And even though like Bloodborne is a completely different game, like just speedrunning itself, it interests me. So, and it was kind of like in the Souls realm. So I just watched, and my idea was, oh yeah, if I speedrun, I should pick something that I feel like I have a little bit of knowledge in, or something that I'm currently active in. And I was currently active in Dark Souls 2, so I did that. Yeah.
And now with Dark Souls 2, it's, if I understand it right, again, as someone who hasn't played it myself, Dark Souls 2 is a situation where there's the original game, and then there's a version of the game with DLC in it, right?
Yeah. So there's Dark Souls 2 Vanilla, that we like to call it, and then there's Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin. So Scholar of the First Sin is like the kind of updated version where the DLCs are inbuilt into the game.
Okay.
Whereas in Vanilla, you have the DLCs like from the start, like the DLC items and everything from the start of the game, like the keys to go into the DLC and stuff like that. So that was a bit different, which makes the runs of both of them different, because in Vanilla, for any % current patch, because you have the DLC keys straight away, you can go into the DLC to get items that you can't really do in Scholar, because in Scholar you have to retrieve the keys in like the area before you can go into DLC. So it makes the runs a little bit different. Yeah, so I started in Scholar because that was the edition that I originally bought. I didn't own Vanilla, but then I became good friends with a runner who was doing Vanilla, and they bought it for me so I could race them. So I was like, okay, that's nice. Yeah, because the Vanilla edition is typically the one that's considered more competitive or more optimized. Yeah, so I spent some time in Scholar, and then when I got to Vanilla, that's when I started running a lot harder. Yeah.
And then, as you said, you eventually got, because that was, I think you had shared with me your PB that was the 50 minutes 55 seconds PB. Was that, had you been grinding a lot to get that top time? Was that the plan, or was that just sort of happened?
Well, whenever I run, it's never like with world record in mind. It's just to the point where I feel satisfied. But because I was like insatiable back then, like that was never gonna happen. It was just probably to the point where I burnt out, or I felt like, you know what, this is the end. I can't keep going. And that's essentially what happened when I got that time. Yeah. Never good enough. That was kind of the, mentality. And like, I got that time where I was like, at the top, but I still didn't feel like it was enough, but I was tired. I was just tired.
I mean, that's a good time to move on from the game. Now, I guess I wanted to ask about running the game itself. You know, I noticed you already provided this as the answer to your least favorite, but is there a part of the run, in terms of a favorite bit of tech or favorite trick that you still look back upon fondly as being good parts of the run, even if overall you were ready to move on from it?
Yeah, this is hard because my tastes have changed a lot. Like, Dark Souls 2 in particular is pretty slow-paced, like, as a game. and like now I run games that are a lot more fast paced. So like when I look back, if I tried to go back, it would feel really weird for me to go back. But I think at the time, yeah, I just enjoyed the motions of running. That was kind of the big appeal, which is kind of something in speedrunning in general, but just, yeah, the motion of running that game was just something that appealed to me a lot. Like, there's some cool stuff in that run, but I don't think of it as cool anymore. I think of other things as cool, yeah.
So here's a question. Now, I asked you before about the point or appeal of speedrunning for you. When it comes to picking up games, and you mentioned that, you have been, it sounds like, putting in time and thought on what your preferences or tastes are in games. You said you're kind of more on this fast-paced action side of things lately. When it comes to the activity of speedrunning itself, a lot of people tend to qualify themselves or identify particular facets of speedrunning in which they're most interested, or like they like to contribute that way. And we think of people who are focused on grinding out runs, folks who maybe for routing, glitch hunting, things like that. Do you feel like you have a particular role or something that you prefer to stick to when it comes to interacting with speedrunning?
I'm not that much of a glitch hunter. I don't think I have the mindset to look at for that kind of stuff. Some people do, and I really admire them a lot. Probably for me, because I run quite a few games that have combat as like a focus, I like looking for new combat tech, like techniques on how to fight enemies and stuff like that, because I would do that for Bayonetta, and yeah, that's probably my favorite thing is combat, trying to make things fast combat-wise. Yeah.
Have you found combat optimizations? Like, all right, so the current Bayonetta route, or the normal no infinite fluke glitch route, is that a route where you've been able to contribute in terms of things like combat optimizations?
In small ways, yeah. In some fights, like just the way that you do fights a little bit, I do in certain ways. Yeah, just little things. Because there's a lot of like little fights of enemies, and like time all adds up. But a lot of the basis for that run was there before I started that run. Yeah, and that run is even evolving to this day. Like, there's people coming into the Discord with new strategies and things like that. So, yeah, Bayonetta, the run is really exciting. Yeah, I like it a lot. Always evolving.
Let's talk a little bit more about Bayonetta. Earlier, you had mentioned that Bayonetta was a game that really impressed you, wowed you, because of the title character's confidence and assertiveness. What was it that led you to playing Bayonetta casually in the first place? How did you happen upon that game?
I don't even know when I think about it. I think I must have gotten it on sale, because sometimes games are like from a Humble Bundle, because I used to get Humble Bundles monthly. Yeah. So I think I must have gotten it in a Humble Bundle, and then like I put in my Steam account, and then I tried it out one day. Because I think it always appealed to me just seeing trailers and things. I thought, oh, this looks cool. But I never got around to playing it. And then it was one of the first games I played on Steam. On stream, I mean, yeah. So.
But of course, it wasn't the first game that you did speedruns of. Yeah. What eventually led you to doing speedruns? Because, as you already said, this kind of game is way different than Dark Souls 2. So how do you get from Dark Souls 2 to running Bayonetta?
It's funny, because I actually wanted Bayonetta to be my first speed game in the beginning, but when I watched the run, I thought it was way too intimidating, because, like, I don't have any knowledge in that game at all. Even though I really like Bayonetta, like, I wasn't good at, like, I didn't feel sufficient in the game at all, so I didn't really go that way. I just went with Dark Souls 2 because that was kind of my comfort zone. But then after Dark Souls 2, I kind of thought about it for a moment, and I ran also a bit of Katana Zero and a bit of Neo as well after Dark Souls 2. And then I was like, you know what? Let's take a chance and let's try learning Bayonetta, because that's what I wanted to do. And I felt a bit more confident now because I ran other games. So I thought, you know what? Let's give it a crack. And it was hard. like at the start. Like I would watch runs and I would try and take notes and I wouldn't even know what they're doing. So I'd look up on Wikipedia, what is this move? What buttons is this? Stuff like really basic stuff to try and learn the run. And yeah, it just kind of went from there. It was really hard, but I'm really, really glad that I learned that run because it's really, yeah, makes me happy.
No, it seems like a super solid run. I watching it, the past few days, I was very impressed by it. I had a category question about it, which is that the category that you've been running doing at marathons is normal, no infinite flute glitch. And so, of course, the first thing I did was I was like, all right, let me go to the leaderboard and let me see, are there runs? My assumption is usually when this kind of thing happens is that there's an annoying glitch that no one wants to deal with, and it's technically faster, but no one really wants to do it. Like usually this is like the realm of like arbitrary code execution type stuff, or it can be other things as well. And I noticed there are very few runs of this, and they're like, and they're not even like the top time is not even in this, in this particular category. Have you ever played around with this at all, or is it just one of those things where it is so like? If you want to explain it also as well, I'm naming it. I'm talking about the name of the thing, but maybe you can explain the glitch and why it is that no one wants to deal with that category.
Yeah. So in the game, there's an item called the magic flute. And essentially the magic flute is like holy water in Devil May Cry. So when you use a magic flute, it does like this burst of energy in the area and it kills all the enemies basically in the area. It's like a one-shot. So the infinite flute glitch, there's a glitch in the menu where you can like use it without consuming it.
Okay.
So it's basically you have this infinite like one-shot energy every time you use it. But it turns the run into a menu game. Like all you do is menu throughout the whole run. And that's essentially it. You go in the menu, use it, bang, all the enemies are dead. You run to the next part. You go in the menu, use it, bang, they're all done. But the thing is that it's kind of not really that much faster because of the menu. Because it takes a while to get to the menu, it takes a while to use it. So sometimes it's not even that much faster. Yeah, so it's not really as enjoyable to run as doing it without the glitch, because sometimes even just the combat is so fast,
right?
So you could do fights like faster than
If you were really to truly route it, you would have to start making sort of game time decisions about whether to do menu and do the thing or do the fight normally.
Yeah, it's not an optimized category compared to no infinite flute glitch. Yeah, so. Yeah,
and I noticed the runner comment on the top run was like, it's been a while since anyone did one of these. Let me see, how much faster it would be right now. And, so that definitely, I was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. This is just, it's not a category that people are focused on, which is okay. There's certainly with speedrunning, people should do what's fun. That's actually maybe more important than necessarily what is fastest. Now, with this game, obviously, you're taking it to marathons. You're taking SGDQ 2021. Besides prepping it for marathons, do you have any goals with this game in terms of either improving your time in the main category or also doing other categories, anything like that?
Because I'm de-rusting for Bayonetta for GDQ, I'm hoping I can get a PB as well while I'm still kind of active in it, because I want to move over to Devil May Cry 3 at some point, but before then, I kind of hope I can get a PB and then move on to something else. I like to hop around my games quite a bit because it makes me make sure that I don't burn out like I did with Dark Souls 2. So, yeah, I like to do that. There's also a lot of new tech that's getting discovered for Bayonetta, so I want to keep an eye on that too and like learn the new things that they're going to be implementing. So, yeah, because since the last time that I showed Bayonetta at a marathon, there's been 2 new skips that have been found. So that'll be exciting to get to show off, especially at...
What are the new skips? Yeah. Where should I be watching for these new skips?
So one of them is just a small one. It skips over like the pond in one of the earlier levels. And then another one is kind of an interesting one where there's this segment where Cereza is running behind you and there's a beloved chasing after her. And that segment can lose you quite a bit of time because she can fall over and you have to like make sure that she doesn't fall over and stuff like that. But now we have a skip where we can abandon her. So we can just like run and abandon the child and go to the next segment. So that one's pretty cool skip that was recently implemented. So
yeah. As much as I would criticize Bayonetta runners for doing this, I'm the person who at GDQX gunned down a mother and her child to avoid a cutscene in a game. I was like, because I was like, hey, you see this mother and child here? Oh, gotta go skip this cutscene. Sorry. So I really shouldn't, because sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do to go fast. I understand. I relate to that very much. That's cool. I definitely remember. I think it might have, I forget it was the Valuethon run or the GDQ run, but like I watched that sequence with having to escort the child and like please don't fall over. Come on. That's really like that's great when you find a skip that can get past the section like that. That is excellent. That is great stuff. Because I was going to ask when if someone before watching a Bayonetta run, if someone said, "How about Bayonetta the speed run?" The first thing that pops into my mind as like a red flag, like maybe this isn't a good idea, would be, because I think of the game as being about big action set pieces, which are very cool to watch and fun to play. But something like the shmup section, is going to be not going to be fast. How did you feel? Like, how do you feel? What is your relationship to the shmup section in Bayonetta?
So when I first learned, the shmup section felt like hell. Like it was just really bad. But you learn for the shmup segment in Bayonetta, each of the enemies that spawn in telegraphed, like they're the same. It's just patterns and remembering the patterns and knowing where to shoot. Since the enemies aren't random, you just have to shoot where they're coming in and know when they're coming in. So it's just a memory game. So it makes it a lot more chill that way. Yeah, even though it is a bit of button mashing, you have to mash because the harder you mash, the more bullets come out.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but you just do what you gotta do.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's just how it is. You just gotta do the thing that you want to do. This is so I was looking at other games that you did. You mentioned that one of the other games that you ran was Neo. And this is really interesting to me. I have I have friends who played Souls games, friends who played the more character action games like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry. And I have one of my best friends loves the character action games, loves Devil May Cry, loves Bayonetta, absolutely cannot deal with Souls games. Like, has tried them. They do not make sense. But he's gotten into Neo 2. And so I'm curious for you as someone who has gone in the direction of faster games, of character action games, what pointed you to Neo? And is Neo, I know Neo is I'm told, as someone who really doesn't play too much of either, that it exists between them. That it is certainly not a Souls game or something like that. But what is your take on that game? Is that game just a character action game, or also what brought you to it?
Yeah, because I was heavily into Souls. Like looking at things online, I heard that Neo was a Souls-like game, so I was like, okay, maybe I will enjoy it. So I went on from Dark Souls to Neo, and then from Neo to Bayonetta. So it was kind of like in the middle of that transition. And yeah, Neo, I wouldn't say Neo is a Souls game because Neo is a lot more complex. Like there's a lot more like combination attacks and like there's a skill tree. And just the combat is a lot more in-depth by comparison to Souls. And it's I would say it's harder from my experience, and it's a lot more punishing than a Souls game. and like there's a lot more culture because of the Japanese culture that's filtrated in the new game as well, and like the bosses and all that kind of stuff. I enjoy Neo a lot more. The speedrun for Neo is fun, but at the same time, yeah, it's punishing. Like you can lose so much time from things going wrong. So yeah, that's one of the speed games I can only run on and off because I get too frustrated sometimes. Yeah.
Is this someone in chat here mentioning a story, the horse spider lore? Is that a
Oh, so
okay? All right, that's a thing. All right.
There's a boss in Neo. His name is Jorogumo. And Jorogumo, when translated, means whore spider. Not horse, but whore, like slut or prostitute spider. And I remember I said that at ESA, and there was someone in the chat who said, horse spider? Question mark. Like, no, that's not what I said. A horse spider, yeah.
I mean, yeah, so that sounds pretty bad. I obviously I feel like it's one of the popular memes about Australia broadly is to bring up deadly wildlife, in particular the spiders. It was really fun. This subject came up last week with Stylenide, and I really appreciated Stylenide's response, which was he thinks bears are terrifying and also moose, which is fair.
Yeah.
They're, you don't have to deal with that. Do you have any feelings about, do you feel that the lethality of Australian wildlife is overrated?
Yeah, I think in some cases, yeah, because like I'm in the suburbs or like in the city, you don't really have, it's like, it's kind of like just in like the main bush kind of areas or like foresty kind of areas, like in any place, kind of like the animals don't come to where all the humans are. So yeah, it can be a bit overrated. But if you go in the outback, yeah, because I used to have grandparents who were on a farm. And like I must admit, it was kind of scary out there in the middle of nowhere, like all the bugs everywhere, like snakes in the curtain, and like, oh dear. That would be scary, but like in the suburbs, it's pretty chill, yeah.
Now, when it comes to, you mentioned before that a lot of your runs are often over an hour. And I want to ask, do you feel like you have a sweet spot in terms of run length? Like, is that like hour and a half your ideal run length? Does that filter into your speedrun choices?
Yeah, hour and a half to 2 hours is usually the size runs that I like to go for. Yeah, that's usually the size I like.
Because I noticed there's a game on your SRC profile that I played like a month or two ago. I really loved it. And I noticed it's on here, and it is out of character with your normal speedrun length choice, which is Okami. And so I'm curious, what led you to try Okami as a speedrun?
Well, I love Okami. Okami is a beautiful game. Like casually, I really loved it. Like the culture and the characters, and it was a really beautiful game. And the speedrun is hard. That is a really hard run. Like, there's so much going on in that run. All the skips are so precise, and like there's skips that save like 25 minutes, and it's like it's so hard to do, but it's worth it because of how much time it saves. And like that run is very good. I think that's a really good run, but it's hard and it's exhausting. So that's a run that I can't do like all the time. I did a couple of runs of it, and I want to get back to it one day, but yeah. I did that because, I liked Okami. It's really pretty.
That's a good reason to do it. I was really impressed with that game. I definitely definitely appreciated that one. Another one I want to call out here while I'm picking on some games here is a game that I'm actually going to be probably starting to play for the first time this weekend casually, which is Nier Automata. Now, of course, that's another Platinum Games game, but my understanding, what I've been told, again, obviously I have not played the game yet, is that there's a little more RPG stuff going on with this, is what I've been told.
What
led you to Nier Automata? What's your take on Automata?
It was funny because that was one of the first games that I played on stream as well. And I must admit, it's not one of my favorite games. I've only played the A and the B route. There's actually quite a few routes in that game that you can take, but I've only done a few of them. The speedrun is really nice, though. I enjoy the speedrun. But yeah, when I played it casually, I didn't have that great of an impression. Probably because at the time, because I was a new streamer, I got backseated a lot. So that kind of like dulled my enjoyment a bit in that game casually. But the speedrun is really nice. It has really good movement and combat. It feels really fluid, like an action game does. So the speedrun is really nice to do, even though some of the skips a little bit hard, but yeah, that's a nice run. I only did a couple of runs of that. I plan to go back. It's like, yeah, I plan to go back to it one day, but we'll see.
No, I mean, I hope you get to all these games. Like, I definitely, I feel like right now, if I were like trying to summarize the Gala speedrun narrative at the moment, it feels like you're just sort of, you know how to speedrun, you know how to practice, you have a process that I think you've become comfortable with, and you're just trying out games, which seems like like an exciting time to me.
Yeah, I like to try and see, take a bite of this, bite of that, see what tastes nice. Yeah.
All right, well, let's start. I think the plan right now is that, folks, if you have questions, we're gonna do some Q&A in a bit, but I have a few more questions before we get there. But I'm just prompting folks in the chat to think about what they might want to ask you. One of the things that I do as part of doing a interview podcast with speedrunners is that I get a question from my previous guest for my next guest, and so on and so forth. And so, as I mentioned several times, Stylenide was my guest from last week, and he relayed this question. He didn't know it was going to be you when I got this question from him. So he knew it was going to be a speedrunner, didn't know who it was going to be. But his question for you, the next OverBoost guest, was, when you're speedrunning a game, you typically have a favorite trick, right? Something. I think I already asked you this question at the very beginning of the podcast. Likewise, when you're speedrunning that same game, you also have like a dream skip. Like some skip that you wish you could find, just that you put in there. And so Stylenide's question was, would you trade your favorite trick for your dream skip?
Yes.
Yes. What is the trick that you are trading for what skip?
Probably the lava skip is my favorite. And I would Isla del Sol skip, because that would skip such a big segment of the game. That would be great. I would love to do that. So that would save more time than the lava skip. So that's why. Yeah, I would trade that.
No, that's fair. Yeah. Also, I don't know if Stylenide is still here. I'm 100% stealing that question for my permanent script now, so that might get asked in the future. Well, that does mean, not to intimidate you, that you have to come up with some perfect, excellent question. But do you have a question that you would want to relay to my next guest, who is a speedrunner?
Yes.
But I'm not going to tell you who it is just yet. But you do know speedrunner. Question doesn't have to be about speedrunning. I've had food questions, music questions, whatever you want, but it will be asked to a speedrunner.
Okay, I have one.
Okay.
Well, I guess it's kind of like along the lines of like mentality. What do you think, or like, how do you manage anger and frustration when speedrunning? Or like, what is your mentality? What do you think is the best mentality to have with speedrunning when managing anger and frustration?
All right, yeah. How do you manage anger, frustration, and speedrunning? What's the best mentality to have for dealing with those? Excellent.
Yeah. How to manage it? Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Opportunity to use my old Evo tilt emote. There we go. Never use that. I feel like it's really poor form to type a tilt emote into chat when someone is tilting. That doesn't seem. That's like putting in salt. Like you don't actually ever want to do that. So that's not good. All right, now. The next question I would normally ask is, are there future games that you're keeping an eye on, that you're excited to play? Before I get into that, though, I have to ask, do you have a statement? Because I have to imagine this happens all the time. As being someone who streams a lot of Bayonetta, people come in and ask for your take on the existence or non-existence of Bayonetta 3. Do you have a statement?
Oh. Bayonetta 3 doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
Like, I feel like being eager for it and waiting eagerly for it doesn't do anything. Like, I'm pretty sure even the guy, he said, forget about Bayonetta for a while, so we just can't think about it. Otherwise, you just get upset, you know? So, just play Bayonetta 1, Bayonetta 2, that's all we have, so might as well enjoy it. What we have, and not what we don't have.
Oh, absolutely. No, I was being a bit mean to my one Bayonetta friend today when I said, well, look at this way. If Bayonetta 3 takes the same amount of time to come out as Metroid Dread, then you can look forward to Bayonetta 3 in 2033.
Oh, dear.
Besides the purported maybe Bayonetta 3 that's not coming out, are there future games that you're excited to see, or you're hoping to play in the future that are coming out?
Well, Elden Ring at E3 interests me. I don't know if I'll get it out as soon as it comes out. I don't know if I'll buy it as soon as it comes out, but it is something that interests me, seeing the enemy designs in that game at E3. Yeah, and Platinum's been working on a few things, and Platinum's working on, I think, Babylon, Fall of Babylon or something like that.
I think it's
so I'm
Babylon's Fall, I think is what it's called. Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what that's like. Yeah, it's also like, I'm always someone who's interested to see what things are like, but I'm not going to play them.
No, yeah,
I just like to sit on the sidelines.
Playing is a big time investment, as it turns out.
Yeah.
Were you interested at all? Because I know it's I think it's, people can correct me if I'm talking out of my butt here, but the Stranger of Paradise game, the Final Fantasy Origin game, that's Koei Tecmo, right? It's the team that does Neo, I think.
Yeah, Team Ninja's working on that.
Ninja, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Chaos. Yeah, the trailer for that was.
I want to kill Chaos. Apparently, the demo is actually really, like, once the demo started working, it was actually fun to play, is what I'm hearing.
Oh.
The demo is good, even though, like, and also, like, you can wear armor and stuff. Like, it's not just T-shirt man. So.
Oh, it isn't just T-shirt man.
No, yeah. So I'm told the demo makes a way better impression than the trailer. Not that I don't like an angry man who constantly talks about chaos. I love that. I love goofy, campy stuff. So that's sold me. But I know not everyone is as on board with being ridiculous as I am.
Yeah.
But, you know, what can you do? Sometimes you just have to live that life. All right. Well, so the next thing I ask here is, are there people in the community, maybe other runners of Bayonetta or other games that you run, that you feel like more people should know about? Some shout outs that you can give, especially to people who don't already have eyeballs on them.
Let me have a think. Well, there's runners. Well, in Bayonetta, there's Ace Krana. He's a very good runner. There's Anthes. He's also a good friend and runner in that community. I first met him when I was running, and then he became a runner because he came into my chat and saw me running, so that's nice. In Ninja Gaiden, there's Razor360. I see him in the chat. There's the Godfather Dictator. He is a very good runner of Ninja Gaiden. There's also like Major Richie, Period of Time. There's a lot of runners in that community that are really lovely. Trying to think. Oh, from Bayonetta 2, there's Cat Revenge. He was at GDQ. AGDQ, I can't remember which one, but he did Bayonetta 2. He's really lovely as well. He's a really good runner.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I love, like, again, part of my interest in doing this podcast series is that I get to discover new runs and runners, and so I'm always happy to take, word of mouth recommendations just for stuff to check out. And so certainly that sounds like a good, and all those games are good too. Your story of getting into streaming and Twitch partner stuff, I think reveals that there are definitely games out there which people aren't streaming that much because, as you mentioned, the category was empty, but in which there are a lot of people who love those games or could love those games, but there's not quite an active community just yet or something like that. And so, if you really like a game, just always just go for it. Throw it out there. You never know what kind of response you're going to get.
Yeah, I think, showing the things that you love at like GDQ and like marathons, you can find people of similar interests that way. Even if there's like no one streaming it on Twitch, that doesn't mean that there's no one who likes that game. It's just about like finding your tribe and people who, like the same things.
Now, if people are looking for what you're doing, where should they be looking? What are the accounts to go to?
I'm Galasrinie on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. They're like the main things. Yeah.
All right. So if you're here with us live, I just dumped the Twitch and Twitter links into chat, so you can click on those. Go follow those right now. If you are listening after the fact on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, whatever, check the show notes. You'll be able to find all those links there as well. And you can do the same thing then. Even in the future, you'll be able to click on the links and follow, subscribe. Before we move on to the QA, I just want to say, thank you again for giving me this time and answering all these questions.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's been a lovely time talking.
Now, before we move on to that live Q&A, I do have one more thing that I want to do, which is I'm going to use a cheesy catchphrase, like "Let's boost on out of here." And when I say the cheesy catchphrase, I want you to give me your best rocket engine noise.
Okay.
Excellent. Folks, thank you so much for listening. Let's boost on out of here. Excellent. That was good. Very good. I love that. I love doing that so much every time. That never gets old. I've done this like 50 times and it has not gotten old. I promise you. It is funny every time to me.
That's
folks,
one way to,
if you have questions that you want to get out there, all right, Albert is throwing the memeiest of meme questions in here. Do you have a strong take on this pineapple on pizza discourse?
I don't mind it.
It's fine, right? It's okay.
Take. I don't mind it at all.
I don't understand why there's food discourse out there that I do not understand. I don't like. Why are people so heated about pineapple? Why are people so heated about mayo? Mayo is just like whatever.
True, yeah.
I don't get it. It's just like like tuna salad, chicken salad, whatever. It's an ingredient. I don't know. It's very weird to me. The whole like millennials hate mayo thing was not something. Actually, anchovies are my favorite pizza topping. So please respect them. Actually, my favorite pizza toppings are, I kid you not, I will walk. Actually, no way. She's like an hour away from me right now. Were I somehow able to get my mother on the line, she would confirm that since I was a child, my favorite pizza toppings are pineapple and anchovies. So, but I guess I can't do that right now. Razor360 has a perhaps biased question, which is, what is objectively the best game ever, and why is it Ninja Gaiden Black?
Yeah, Razor thinks. We'll always say that Ninja Gaiden Black is the best game ever. Religiously saying that in every chat possible. Yeah.
See,
Ninja Gaiden Black is a good game.
Mm-hmm. I would probably upset Razor because I've never really thought of myself as like a high skilled gamer, and so when I first had a 360 in like 8th grade, I borrowed the original Xbox Ninja Gaiden from a friend, and I got frustrated on the first level. A friend told me that you could spam the wall attack and get through it, so I did that, and I got to the second level, and I think I ran into the horse boss. And then I pieced out of that game. I've never returned a borrowed game so fast in my life. And I've never played that game again since. So, good thing I didn't buy it. Oh, okay. So Skiller asks, have you played Neo 2? And do you have any thoughts about why it seems like not as popular a run as Neo 1?
Yeah, I've played Neo 2. It's kind of interesting how it's not that much popular run because Neo 1 isn't that popular either as a speed game. For some reason, speedrunning Neo is just not something that really that many people get into, which I find interesting. Yeah. Neo 2, particularly, there's a feather glitch, which is used a lot throughout the run. There's also featherless, which is a category. But yeah, Neo 2 is just not that popular as a speed game for some reason. I don't think it's that popular as a game either, even though there are communities for it.
Sure.
But relatively, yeah, it's rather small. Yeah.
I wonder if that's just like the kind of player that that the game attracts. I find it interesting when you can talk about the broader community of a game and how that translates into the speedrunning community for the game. Like this is how this is my perception of why it is that you have like speedrunning souls and then like the no hit, no glitches challenge runs kind of thing because of the the mentality, and that's without even talking about the connotation of that being positive or negative, but it's just how it ends up reflecting.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, Overkill's got some meaty questions here. So the question is, when you started learning the speedrun of Bayonetta, going from casual playthroughs to doing a speedrun, was there a specific part of the run that you had a hard time learning and getting used to?
That would be, well, everything is hard when you start learning like something very new. But particularly combat, like, yeah, well, a lot of the runs that I do are combat heavy, so the combat is like really hard. And like, yeah, some of the skips were hard too. And like for a lot of combat in the games that I run now, it's all positioning and timing, where you position the character and when you attack. And a lot of times it can be very specific on where you have to be. So like having to like hone that into myself to get that right, it's hard and it can be frustrating and yeah.
No, I think that it sounds like one of those things that maybe are non-obvious when trying to learn a run, because I think like when you learn a run, certain things can be obvious, like just being in a particular place at a certain time or seeing what's skipped or stuff like that. But it sounds like that kind of combat stuff, and especially the like what's important, right? Like, is it important that I stand here? Is it important that I do this thing at this time? Like there's definitely a lot of discovering what can go wrong.
Yeah, and managing failure. Yeah, like whenever I learn a new run, that's always like the biggest thing is how I'm going to manage failing over and over and over again until I can actually do it right. And that can be really hard. Yeah, always a bit saddening, but you just have to try and push through to get to the point where you want to be, you know? Yeah, and taking breaks is good too when learning, yeah. Don't be too hard on yourself because that's not good.
Yeah, it's never going to help to like this is. I mean, again, we've talked about this several times already tonight, but like it's part of why it's so essential, to have a process to like give yourself rest. Rest is something maybe you talk about more with like real sports, athletic sports, but it is. It's essential for any kind of learning or adapting or anything like that. It's just as true for games. Following from that, Overkill also asks, so wait, all right, is this still part you had a hard time learning? Was there, okay, so going on that idea of the part of the Bay Run that you had that hardest time learning, was there any particular thing that helped make it click, something special that put that difficult element of the run into place?
Well, for me it was really watching Bayonetta runs over and like slowing them down to see what runners were doing in combat. Because a lot of the time when you watch a run, you'll pick up some things, but you won't pick up everything. because especially in Bayonetta, things are happening so fast. So watching the run like a few times over, I would pick up new things each time. And yeah, I would try and implement them that way each time, especially like for specific fights, because each fight is pretty specific on what you're meant to be doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things too. It's almost like, you know, like language learning or something, where the first time you learn a run, the things that you take notes on aren't going to be the same things you take notes on after you've done the run yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's definitely, like, and especially, of course, as you know, we were talking about a specific part of the run. So coming back and checking in on specific things, you're going to be looking for different stuff. Well, maybe on that note, Razor has a good question here, which is, what skill do you think is most important for a new runner to develop when starting out speedrunning in general? And, you know, maybe come up with some specific examples on how that would translate to Bayonetta.
Well, first one would be, learning to manage failure, anger, frustration, all of that stuff. And also being open to learn new things and having an open mindset to learning new things. Like, for example, you might be someone who doesn't really like glitches or doesn't really like skipping that much, but just being open to like what it's about or what it's like, or maybe even just trying it and seeing what it's like just being open to trying new things and open to learning, because when you learn more you open yourself up to so many different branches of like speedrunning and enjoyment in new things, and I think that's really important. And managing failure, because speedrunning is, I think I remember one of the first runners I talked to, they told me speedrunning is all about failure, because you just fail all the time, you know. It's just about, pushing through it and finishing runs, you know. Yeah, it's not about, like, the perfect run doesn't exist all the time. It's just about getting from A to B, getting to the start of the run and the end of the run. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be perhaps better than last time.
It's a tired topic in speedrunning, but I definitely think that the mindset of not resetting too much, or not like resetting when you shouldn't, you know, especially for learning a run, like that might be the best thing for new runners is, you know, you're encountering something new, especially if you're new to speedrunning overall, not even just new to a particular speedrun, is that you really do want to be focusing more on doing full runs and learning the whole run than necessarily be like, all right, I know these things, I need to do a perfect run of all these things right now. No, don't do that. How about... Yeah, no, definitely. No resets. Some no resets is good. What about something most people don't see about speedrunners, but is always in your mind? Like, what do you as the speedrunner, what is internally always on your mind that necessarily isn't going to be visible to someone watching you?
That's a good question, because I think there's a lot that people don't see. Like, there's probably like all the emotions that you don't always see, and like, I guess the thought processes of this is what I have to do next, or if something bad happens on a run, how to make up for it and still be able to continue, stuff like that. Or like the management of, like, I don't know, like for example, you get RNG from a boss and you have to somehow manage it. Like, how do you do that? Like, all these thought processes are going on. Yeah, and like the practice, like a lot of people don't do practice on stream, they prefer to do it off stream. So that's something like a lot of people don't see, like how hard some people practice off stream. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. That's do you have so are you someone that does a lot of your speedrunning stuff on stream? Because I find this interesting when it comes to the different phases, you know, learning, routing, grinding for a particular time, things like that. There, like, everyone wants to do runs on stream, like full runs. Everyone likes streaming that stuff. But some people like to do, some people say doing off stream runs is great because I can focus more. Some people don't like to stream learning or routing. Do you stream learning or routing? Do you do off-stream runs?
Yeah, I stream everything.
You stream everything, yeah.
Streaming is just a good motivation to actually get me to do something. It's like, oh, I'll do it on stream. Yeah, I'll actually do it. Because if I'm not streaming, I get distracted by other things and I often dwindle away to... But streaming kind of keeps me, like, in one spot. So that's good. Yeah, I do practice off stream, though, as well. If I'm not streaming, I'll pick up the game and practice a bit if I can. Yeah, but I do a lot of practice on stream as well.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to doing like learning or routing on stream, like are you the sort of person who will, you know, at this point I think all the VODs I watched were, you know, marathon VODs or PVs or stuff like that. Do you do stuff where you like, you know, you show notes on stream or anything like that, or is it just sort of like just game feed mostly?
Well, when I do my 12-hour like learning streams, I'll have notes like on my other monitor, but I usually don't show them on stream. Yeah, usually just show like the tutorial videos. I always make the joke, oh, we're learning together. We're learning together, chat. We're gonna learn it. Yeah. We're learning a run together.
We'll all learn the run together. Skiller's got a silly question here. Do you have a favorite movie?
I don't. Well, I have one, I guess, that I have pretty good memories of. I don't know if you've heard of Man in the Iron Mask with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, I know that movie.
Yeah, I used to watch that a lot. Okay. Yeah, I used to like that movie a lot.
Are you a fan of Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah, he's all right. Okay. Well, I'm not like an avid fan of like, oh yeah, I watch all his movies and not all that stuff.
I feel like there was a period of time when I was young when like Titanic was the biggest thing to happen to pop culture.
Yeah.
And that was definitely a phenomenon to be dealt with for some period of time.
Yeah.
Folks, if you got more, go ahead and throw more in. You know, I want to ask, I always, as I mentioned before, I always enjoy word of mouth recommendations, certainly for checking out runs and runners. You know, of the runners that you mentioned, or, you know, other people as well, do you think there's any people that would make excellent podcast guests? You know, asking for a friend. Yeah.
I think the Godfather Dictator, he would be good for a podcast like this, I think. Okay. Yeah. He's really good at talking. He's very good.
Oh, here we go. We got one from Reclaimer. What is your favorite weapon in Bayonetta, both casually and during the speedrun?
Oh, that's a good question. But in Bayonetta 1, there's the category No Infinite Climax New Game Plus. You use this weapon called, I think it's the Ronin or the Rodin, and it's basically a weapon that can mold into all the different angel weapons. So it's like one weapon that can be multiple things. That weapon is really fun because one of the weapons that it can turn into is like a hula hoop, kind of like trombone kind of thing. So it that was a lot of fun, that weapon. Also, there's a whip in Bayonetta that's fun. There's ice skates. I remember playing around with them. Yeah, Bayonetta has a lot of fun weapons to use.
Yeah, I remember I had played the game just once through on normally, but it seemed like there was a lot of other modes and like various challenges that you can do. I know you mentioned doing challenge runs of Dark Souls. Did you do challenge runs of Bayonetta?
No, I didn't do any for Bayonetta, no. Yeah. I went straight from like first playthrough to like a couple of years later the speedrunning. So yeah, I didn't do anything like that.
Nothing wrong with that. That is totally legitimate. All right, I'm trying to think. We might be getting towards the end of things here. If anyone's got anything else to throw in there, I'm just trying to see if there's anything that I wanted to go back to. Do you spend any time now? It seems like your focus is primarily on the Twitch streaming stuff. You're not really too worried about YouTube or anything like that.
Well, I like to post things on YouTube, but yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I don't put too much focus onto that. Like, I don't make specific videos for that. I used to make a few for like little Bayonetta tutorial things like that, but yeah, it's mainly just VODs from Twitch that I put on there. Yeah. main thing that I do now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like for a while everyone was like, "Oh, we gotta do the YouTube content," but that
Yeah.
I feel like the problem with YouTube content is YouTube viewers, who are interested in watching, some things, but not so much others. All right. Well, if we don't have any more Q&A, then maybe I will find a. Do you have a raid target that you would want to send folks to?
I can have a look. I usually don't. I'm usually not on like at this time, so I'm really not sure who's on.
Yeah, go take a look if you want to bring up the following list or something. Take a moment.
Let me have a look. So there is someone doing Ninja Gaiden Black, or there's a runner who's doing Bloodborne. There's 2 people that are on. Would you like me to pick someone?
Yeah, go ahead, pick someone. You're the...
Okay. Let's go raid. We'll go raid Curious Peanut. I'll put their name in the chat. Or I'll give you their name on Discord. Oh. I'll put their name in the... Oh. I can give it to you.
Yeah, Discord DM or chatty is fine. There's no link bot in chat or anything like that, it sounds.
Okay. There you go. That's their name.
Okay.
They're doing Bloodborne. Oh, I actually don't think they're doing runs today. Oh no, they are doing runs today.
Yeah, I just pulled the stream up. Seems like they're doing runs. All right, let's...
Yeah, they're doing Bloodborne or bosses.
Cool. Well, let's queue that up. Excellent. Well, thank you again so much. I had a lot of fun. Again, I loved the opportunity to watch Bayonetta. Best of luck with the SGDQ run. I'll definitely be checking that out.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, excellent. Well, I will let you get to it, and I'll send this off. Have a good day.
See you.